Chairmen, Joint Chiefs, Admirals, Commanders, Officers, enlisted, and every person who serves our nation. Good morning, and thank you for your dedication. Whatever title this institution carries, its highest calling is not war itself, but the protection of peace, the dignity of life, and the well-being of all people. Good morning and welcome. Some have spoken of war, others of defense, but let us envision something greater. A department of peace and protection, whose era must begin now. Our duty is not endless preparation for violence, but the cultivation of harmony and the prevention of harm. Many have repeated the saying, "Those who long for peace must prepare for war." But we know a more profound wisdom. Peace does not result from war. Those who long for peace must prepare themselves with compassion, discipline, and service. Peace is not maintained by threat, but by trust, cooperation, and justice. History has echoed the Roman call to prepare for war as a means to maintain peace, yet history also shows us another path. From peacemakers and statesmen to spiritual leaders across cultures who taught that peace is preserved by fairness, restraint, and respect for human dignity. To ensure peace, we must prepare our societies for justice, cooperation, and reconciliation. From this moment forward, the mission must be the prevention of war, the protection of people, and the cultivation of peace. Our readiness is not to wage destruction, but to safeguard life, to uphold human dignity, and to ensure that peace has the strongest foundation we can build. Our foremost responsibility is to nurture peace so that war never becomes necessary. Some refer to this as peace through strength. Let us expand that strength, the strength to protect the vulnerable, to uphold justice, to ensure growth without cruelty, and to resolve conflict without domination. Peace belongs to everyone, not only those prepared to fight, but every child, every family, every community. Pacifism, when practiced wisely, is not naive, it is courageous. It honors the truth that human nature carries both the impulse toward violence and the capacity for compassion. History shows us wars, yes, but also peacemakers, mediators, and movements of nonviolence that changed the world without shedding blood. Either we protect people through justice, fairness, and cooperation, or we fall prey to domination and fear. The truth, as old as time, is not only survival by force, but survival through community. The recognition that no nation stands alone and that security rests upon mutual respect. Because war is so costly in blood, treasure, and spirit, we owe our republic a commitment to avoid war whenever possible. Should aggression arise, our response must be measured, lawful, and aimed only at restoring peace, never at humiliation or domination. Our true strength is not ferocity, but the moral clarity to end violence quickly and to restore peace and justice. Another way to speak of strength is to affirm that peace is sustained by discipline, compassion, and resilience, qualities that true warriors possess. Our nation does not need to boast of being the most lethal. Instead, let us strive to be the most trusted, the most ethical, the most capable of protecting life. True greatness is measured not in the destruction, but in the peace that follows our efforts. Our readiness is not only due to resources invested, but also to the dedication of those who lead and serve. Yet the world reminds us that others have agency too. Just as hostility can arise, so too can cooperation. The direction of humanity is not set in stone. It can turn toward peace if we nurture it together. This is a moment of urgency, but not only because of the military threat. We must address climate change, human suffering, and the roots of conflict before they ignite new wars. Preparation is not just for fighting, but for healing, preventing, and protecting. Our readiness must mean that we are ready to serve peace, not to wage destruction. Urgent times require more compassion, more resilience in our communities, and more tools for diplomacy. What we need more of is investment in conflict prevention, dialogue, peace building, sustainable technology, and humanitarian readiness. True innovation is about finding ways to save lives, building trust across borders, and reducing the likelihood that war will ever become an option. America is strong, yet its greatest strength lies in cooperation. The urgent task before us is not to expand the machinery of war, but to renew the foundations of peace. This means restoring industries that sustain life, protecting the environment, and ensuring food, water, and health security. It means building partnerships where allies share the work in peacebuilding, humanitarian aid, and global cooperation. America cannot do everything alone. The free world requires genuine partnerships founded on shared humanity and mutual respect. What the world needs most is not more weapons, but more leadership and dialogue, justice, and compassion. In the times ahead, our task will be to innovate in peacebuilding, to reform our institutions so that they serve life rather than war, and to face global challenges such as climate change, poverty, and health together with our allies. This gathering today, as I sip my tea, is about people and about culture. No plan or program can succeed unless the human spirit within it is strong. The true measure of our institutions is not the weapons they wield, but the world they shape for our children. The culture we need is one of service, compassion, fairness, and dedication to protecting life. If there is one lesson that becomes clear, it is this: personnel is policy. The best way to care for those who serve is to give them leaders who are grounded in wisdom, clarity, and fairness. Leaders do not need to be flawless, but they must be compassionate, competent, trustworthy, and dedicated to the well-being of those they lead, while honoring their oath to the Constitution and to the dignity of all people everywhere. Eugene Sledge, reflecting on World War II, wrote that war is brutish, inglorious, and a terrible waste, leaving scars on all who endure it. What he found redeeming was not the violence, but the bravery and devotion of comrades caring for one another. Let that devotion be our guide. Our greatest task is to honor such courage by preventing future generations from facing the same waste and devastation. In war, there are countless variables, most of them beyond our control. What can be guided is preparation, equipment, and leadership. Yet even the best preparation cannot erase the human cost. The deeper wisdom is this: if so much lies outside of our control, then our most significant responsibility is to prevent war in the first place, and to use our military might in ways that honor life. Those who serve are entitled to be led by the most capable and compassionate leaders we can provide. Leadership is not about perfection, but about protecting those in your care to the best of your ability. Our sacred duty is to ensure that those who put on the uniform are guided by wisdom, fairness, and integrity. This is one thing we can control, and we owe it to the people to uphold it. For too long, we as a nation have not given our service members what they genuinely need. Too often, political priorities have distracted us from the essential work of protecting life and nurturing peace. What is required now is honest reflection and renewal. We must clear away cynicism, fear, and division, so that leaders can focus on their real calling: to serve with integrity, to protect their people, and to build a culture that supports peace rather than undermines it. For too long, promotion has not always reflected the best of what leadership could be. Real advancement must rest on character, competence, and the ability to serve others. Diversity and inclusion are not weaknesses, but sources of strength when paired with accountability and excellence. Every role has value, and every person deserves respect. Leadership must never be about conformity or fear, but about courage, fairness, and the willingness to do what is right. At times we have lost our compass, forgetting that our true direction is the protection of life and the safeguarding of justice. Looking out today, I see Americans who chose to serve something greater than themselves, the care for their neighbors, the defense of freedom, and the upholding of the Constitution. Let us honor that choice, not by fighting for war, but by striving for peace and dignity for all. You chose to serve when others did not, and for that, you deserve deep gratitude. Your commitment reflects the best of our nation. But loving our country and loving the uniform means we must hold ourselves to an even higher standard. It means acknowledging where we fall short and committing ourselves to do better, not for pride or glory, but for the people whose lives depend on us. We must begin with honesty. Leaders must speak plainly and truthfully about what they see, even when it is difficult to do so. Integrity requires that we name the challenges within our own commands before we point outward. We cannot go forward unless we first take responsibility for the flaws within ourselves and our institutions and commit to repairing them with humility and courage. This administration has its own perspectives and priorities, but let us be clear about what should guide us: justice, inclusion, and care for the environment. These are not obstacles, but vital responsibilities. What truly weakens us is division, cynicism, and contempt. We must instead cultivate a culture of respect, cooperation, and commitment to one another and to the earth we all depend on. As I've said before, our mission is not to nurture distractions, but to restore focus on what truly matters. The next step is not to make us more lethal, but more ethical, more compassionate, and more capable of preventing conflicts before they begin. Beneath the political noise lies a deeper issue that we must face: how we measure ourselves as leaders. The test is simple and timeless. Would we want our own children and grandchildren to serve in the conditions we create? If not, we are failing. Authentic leadership means treating every soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine as if they were our own family. Would I want my child to serve in the conditions we maintain? If the answer is no, then change is required. Every parent deserves to know that their child will be respected, protected, and guided with dignity and respect. Every person who puts on the uniform is a precious life, worthy of care and fairness. Every family deserves to know that their loved one is entering a culture of fairness and compassion. The guiding principle is simple: lead others as you would wish your own family to be led. Treat others as they wish to be treated. This ethic is not a burden, but a light that keeps us honest, accountable, and human. The guiding rule for the future should be this: lead others as you would want your own family to be led. Would you want your child serving in a unit where people were neglected, unsupported, or unprepared? Of course not. Standards must be fair and consistent, but their purpose is not exclusion. Their purpose is to ensure health, readiness, and mutual trust. Standards should inspire growth and responsibility, not contempt. This means that here at the Department of Peace and Protection, we must apply standards with fairness and purpose. Every person deserves to serve in a unit where others are healthy, capable, and supported. Standards must be meaningful, consistent, and rooted in care for human life. They should never be used to demean or divide, but to strengthen trust and ensure that every member is prepared to serve well. When it comes to readiness, what matters is the ability to serve with competence, integrity, and care. At every level, people deserve clear expectations and the support needed to meet them. Leadership is not about disregarding feelings, but about building strength while honoring dignity. Standards exist so that everyone can contribute safely and effectively, not to exclude or marginalize people. For this reason, I am calling for a renewed commitment to a meaningful, life-affirming standard. These must be rooted in fairness, safety, and respect for all. The true test of readiness is not to return to outdated measures, but to build standards that protect life and prepare people for service with dignity. Excellence should be encouraged, not through exclusion, but through the cultivation of strength, cooperation, and care for one another. Today, I advocate for readiness practices that reflect real-world conditions while upholding fairness and compassion. Fitness assessments should be relevant, consistent, and supportive of each person's health and growth. Standards should be gender-neutral and inclusive, designed not to exclude but to ensure that every member is capable of contributing safely and effectively. The goal is not to punish, but to prepare and to protect. Health and readiness begin with physical well-being. Every person in uniform deserves access to fitness programs, nutrition, and support that helps them stay strong in body and mind. Readiness is not about presenting a certain appearance, but about cultivating vitality and resilience. Leaders, like all members of the force, should model healthy living and respect for self and for others. Whether one serves in the field or in an office, health matters for all. Regular fitness and well checks should ensure that every person is supported in maintaining strength and vitality. And these evaluations should not be about punishment, but about promoting lifelong health, protecting readiness, and caring for those who serve at every level so that they can perform their best. I also call for daily practices that support physical and mental well-being. Movement, exercise, and mindfulness should be an integral part of everyday life, whether practiced in a group or individually. These practices do not need to be harsh or punitive in nature. They should build endurance, focus, and resilience, strengthening both body and spirit. And this leads to a peacekeeping force that is well equipped to interact with changing global conditions. At every level, leaders should set the tone for professionalism. Appearance should reflect respect for oneself and the unit, while also honoring individuality and personal beliefs. Uniforms and grooming can express unity, but they should also not erase the humanity of those who serve. Discipline must be balanced with dignity. Small details do matter, but not as a tool for shaming or exclusion. The way we care for ourselves reflects the way we care for one another. Professionalism in dress and conduct should be practiced with respect and consistency, not as rigid conformity, but as a reminder of shared responsibility and unity. We do not have the luxury of dismissing standards, of enforcing them with contempt. Leaders must encourage professionalism while also recognizing individuality. The era we need is one where appearance reflects respect for oneself, for others, and for the mission of protecting peace, not a culture of mockery or derision. Respect for professionalism is essential, but it must be balanced with compassion. If someone cannot meet specific grooming or fitness expectations due to health or circumstance, they deserve understanding and appropriate support. Readiness is not just about appearance, but also about the ability to serve with integrity, with competence, and with commitment. I appreciate the sincere efforts already made to support healthier and more professional standards. These reforms should be guided by compassion and fairness, never by humiliation. And when we speak of leadership, it is essential to clarify what true toxic leadership really means. Holding people to meaningful standards with fairness is not toxic. True leadership means guiding others with clarity, consistency, and care. Toxic leadership is not about expecting excellence, but about using power abusively, neglecting well-being, or leading through fear. Ethical leadership honors the Constitution and the Bill of Human Rights by striking a balance between discipline and compassion, and by ensuring that every person can give their best in a culture of respect. Real toxic leadership is about arrogance, neglect, and the abuse of authority. It is about ignoring the needs of those under your care or placing personal ambition over the common good. True leadership is not measured by ideology or background, but by service, wisdom, and integrity. The deepest measure is whether leaders strengthen trust, fairness, and the dignity of every person they guide. The word toxic must not be misused. It should not silence leaders who guide with care, but it must protect those harmed by abuse. This is why we must clearly define toxic leadership, bullying and hazing in ways that prevent harm, while supporting honest, respectable accountability. Leaders should feel empowered to guide firmly and fairly, but never to mistreat or demean. Bullying and hazing must never be tolerated. These actions harm trust, weaken cohesion, and put lives at risk. Words like toxic must not be trivialized, because the reality of abuse is real and destructive. Setting and upholding standards with fairness is not toxic. It is healthy leadership. If a leader is accused of toxicity for treating people with respect and care, then the definition itself must be corrected. Secondly, today I call for every service, unit, and schoolhouse to review their standards with honesty and with care. This review is not about lowering expectations, but about making sure that our standards are fair, purposeful, and supportive of those who serve. Every standard should protect life, prepare people for service, and reflect the values of compassion, justice, and responsibility. Any place where standards have been changed must be scrutinized. Changes must not be automatically reversed, but instead reviewed to determine if they have evolved over time to serve the interests of readiness and fairness. Standards should never be manipulated for political gain, nor used unfairly to exclude. Real merit is measured by competence, by character, and the ability to work for others for the good of all. To guide this process, let us ask, why were standards changed? And did that evolution serve the mission in protecting life and fostering readiness? If a change was made to reflect new realities, new technologies, or a deeper understanding of fairness, then it may be wise. If it was made without purpose, then it should be reconsidered. The point is not to return to the past, but to learn from it and to make informed choices for the future. Another guide is to ask, does this decision make it easier for leaders at every level to care for their people and fulfill their responsibilities? Does it empower them to build trust, to teach, and to support the readiness of their teams? If the answer is yes, then the standard is probably serving its purpose. Leadership is always clearest when it strengthens accountability and fosters cooperation. The challenges of service do not ask whether someone is a man or a woman. What matters is the capacity to meet the task with competence and courage. This is not about limiting opportunities, but about ensuring fairness. We value the contributions of all genders equally, recognizing that strength takes many forms: physical ability, emotional resilience, intelligence, and leadership. For roles that demand high levels of physical ability, standards should be consistent, fair, and rooted in safety. They must be gender neutral and applied equally. Those who meet them, regardless of gender, should have the opportunity to serve. Those who do not should not be shamed, but supported in finding roles where their strengths can shine. Every contribution matters to the whole. Readiness means being able to trust the person beside you, knowing that they are capable in fulfilling their duty under pressure. Again, this is not about exclusion, but about responsibility. The real standard we want for our children and grandchildren is one that keeps them safe, values their lives, and ensures that those who serve are equipped, supported, and trained with care. Trust is built not only on strength, but on fairness and mutual respect. We must move beyond a culture of fear and risk aversion. When leaders are afraid to make mistakes, they stop growing and they stop guiding with courage. Leadership should not be about avoiding blame, but about taking responsibility, learning, and adapting. NCOs and commanders who are trusted to lead with integrity, to make difficult choices, and to do so in ways that uphold fairness and protect those they serve. Chasing the illusion of a flawless record can discourage honesty and courage. What we need instead is a culture where leaders at every level are empowered to act with fairness, to uphold healthy standards, and to support growth. Standards already exist. What matters is fostering an environment where they are applied consistently, with wisdom and compassion, to ensure the safety and well-being of the people in their care. And this is why we must review and reform our accountability systems. Processes like IG and EO must protect fairness and justice, not become tools of fear and manipulation. Commanders and NCOs should feel empowered to lead with integrity, and service members must trust that their concerns will be taken seriously and with care. The goal is not to silence voices, but to ensure that accountability is balanced and constructive. Equal opportunity policies must be fair and trusted. Complaints should be addressed promptly and responsibly, neither dismissed as frivolous nor allowed to drag on without resolution. Every person deserves a system that safeguards their dignity, prevents abuse, and ensures that accountability protects both the integrity of individuals and the institution. Racism and sexual harassment are unacceptable and must be eliminated wherever they appear. These behaviors erode trust and unity, and ultimately harming the very individuals who have dedicated themselves to serving. Discipline, professionalism, and accountability are essential, but they should never be confused with discrimination. To ask someone to live up to their responsibilities is different than demeaning them. It is a matter of accountability. Our aim must always be fairness rooted in respect. Those in uniform serve a distinct role, yet they remain connected to the whole of society. Our task is not to separate ourselves from civilians, but to serve them with humility and care. Commanders and NCOs bear a great responsibility, making decisions that affect the lives of others. That is why leadership must always pass the golden rule test. Would I want my own children, or anyone's children, under these conditions? If not, change is required. I urge you all here today, and those listening, to take this guidance to heart. The spirit of this message is simple. Our responsibility is to protect life and foster peace. These principles are designed to guide leaders in every branch of service, enabling us to work together and foster a culture of compassion, fairness, and readiness that genuinely serves the people. These principles are meant to relieve unnecessary burdens and restore trust in your ability to lead with wisdom. Lead with clarity and compassion, knowing that you have the support you need. Authentic leadership is not about domination, but about shared responsibility. And we stand behind you in serving peace and protecting those entrusted to your care. We recognize that mistakes are an inevitable part of leadership. What matters is learning from them. No one should have their entire career defined by an honest error. Accountability must be fair, distinguishing between harmful abuse and forgivable human mistakes. Growth and redemption are essential parts of responsible service. Honest mistakes, however, should not overshadow years of service. If leaders fear every misstep, they will act out of fear instead of courage. We need leaders who are willing to take thoughtful risks, who can act with creativity, humility, and integrity. Our culture must support growth, not perfectionism, and encourage responsibility grounded in service. Promotions across the services must be grounded in this fairness and in real merit. Real merit is not only technical skill, but the ability to lead with integrity, to protect those under your care, and to embody compassion and courage. Evaluations must reflect not only capability, but also character, and that those who rise in rank bring wisdom and justice to their leadership. We should recognize and promote those who demonstrate excellence in service, wisdom in leadership, and integrity in character. Evaluation should be meaningful, not empty rituals, and education should be tied to real growth. History shows us that reforms rooted in accountability and fairness can transform institutions. Let us learn from this past, not to glorify war, but to build systems that strengthen peace and prevent needless suffering. When Chairman Kane began his role, He gave me a framed photo of Marshall and Stimson, leaders during a difficult time. They kept their doors open to one another, symbolizing trust, cooperation, and shared purpose. Let us take the lesson not as a preparation for endless war, but as a model for transparency and collaboration in service to peace. They worked together daily, bridging the roles of civilian and military leadership with trust and respect. Chairman Kane and I strive for that same openness. Our responsibility is to ensure that those who serve are guided by leaders of integrity and compassion, ready not for conquest, but to safeguard the lives and the freedoms of the people. Fifth, as you have heard, there have been some changes in senior leadership. The reason is simple. It is challenging to establish a new culture of peace and compassion if leadership remains entrenched in outdated ways of thinking. Change requires courage, and sometimes that means opening the door for new leaders who can embody fairness, humility, and a vision of service grounded in the protection of life. My approach has been to listen, to reflect, and to make decisions based on what would best serve peace and protect those in uniform. Leadership is never about blame. Many who served in the past administrations simply followed the direction given to them. Our responsibility now is not to condemn, but to chart a new course that centers on justice, dignity, and compassion. A generation of leaders who asked to focus on ideas that were sometimes misunderstood or politicized. Yet the truth is clear. Diversity can strengthen us, and unity is also essential. What matters is not slogans, but whether people are treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. Our task is to ensure that leadership reflects justice and integrity without turning human identity into a weapon of division. At times, leaders have been asked to implement civilian policies that they did not fully embrace. That is part of our system of accountability to civilian oversight. Our task is not to divide leaders into camps of loyalty and disloyalty, but to ask, who among us is ready to lead with compassion, wisdom, and a commitment to human dignity? The goal is not ideological purity, but ethical service. A new direction requires careful reflection on our leadership. We've taken time to look honestly at our officer corps, understanding both its strengths and its limitations. Change is never easy, but it is necessary when lives and the future of our nation are at stake. Leadership must be guided by compassion, humility, and integrity, so that those entrusted with responsibility always act in the service of life and peace. I look out at this group and I see leaders who have sacrificed greatly for our republic. If these words feel heavy, it may be time to step aside with honor and our gratitude. But for most, I believe these words feel like a release, a call to serve more authentically, with renewed clarity. You are invited to lead with courage, not bound by ideology, but free to embody fairness, justice, and humanity. Our task is not to obsess over labels and slogans. Our task is to embody service in its truest form, not domination, but the protection of life. We have diplomats, educators, and economists in other branches of the government. Your role is to bring the discipline of service, readiness, and compassion to this institution so that it stands as a guardian of human values rather than an instrument of fear. We will disagree at times, as people do. That's part of democracy. Yet when lawful orders are given, they must be carried out with professionalism and diligence. This does not mean silencing conscience, but it does mean honoring our responsibility to serve the people with integrity. Leadership also extends into how we and our troops use our voices. Online behavior must reflect the same respect we expect in uniform. Anonymous attacks or divisive speech do not build unity. They weaken trust. Let us uphold the same standard of honesty and dignity in public and online that we maintain in person. Training and preparation are not optional. They are the daily rhythm that keeps us ready, steady, and able to serve. But training must be meaningful. Endless briefings and hollow exercises sap energy and weaken morale. What strengthens people is real practice, real skill, and an authentic connection to purpose. Our resources must be allocated to what sustains life. Proper equipment, healthy food, adequate housing, and tools that enable training to be safe and practical. Every person deserves to know they are prepared not only to carry out their role, but also to return home whole in body, mind, and spirit. When training is neglected, people lose heart. When it is thoughtful and challenging, people rise to the occasion. Our goal is not to create fear, but to inspire growth. When we prepare well, we give our people reasons to be proud, deepen their sense of service, and strengthen the bonds of trust within every unit. Basic training at its best is not about intimidation, but transformation. New recruits should be guided firmly yet respectfully, taught discipline without cruelty, and prepared for the responsibilities they will carry. The purpose is not to break people down, but to build them up, to strengthen their body, their mind, and their spirit in equal measure. The truth is that every member of this institution must maintain core skills, regardless of speciality. Service is not divided into those who matter and those who do not. Every role contributes, and every person should have a foundation of readiness, so that in this moment of crisis they can act with competence and courage. History teaches us that our nation has not always made wise choices during times of conflict. Some wars dragged on with no clear purpose, leaving deep wounds and damaged relationships. Others were limited in scope and ended quickly because the mission was more clear. The lesson is not that we should prepare for endless war, but that we must be careful with when and how force is used. The power of the tools of peace should not be underestimated. The greatest strength we can offer the world is restraint. We must never confuse defense with aggression. Defense is a constant responsibility, an ongoing commitment to safeguard people. War, when waged, should only ever be a last resort, chosen sparingly, with aims that are clear, lawful, and humane. The goal is not victory through destruction, but peace through resolution. Any use of force must be measured by its capacity to end violence quickly and to prevent further harm. Rules of engagement must protect civilians and to preserve our moral integrity. True strength is not shown in unleashing overwhelming violence, but in holding it back until every other option has been tried and exhausted. When we equip and train, let it be for the sake of peace. When we prepare, let it be with the hope that the tools we sharpen will never be put to use. Let our readiness stand as a deterrent, not a destiny. Our responsibility is to guide the use of force with wisdom and restraint. Rules of engagement exist for a reason. They are not obstacles to victory, but safeguards to our humanity. They protect civilians, uphold the law, and preserve the moral foundation that gives legitimacy to our whole service. Restraint is not a weakness. It is the highest form of discipline, showing that we value life even in the midst of danger. Leaders and troops alike must know that they are trusted, supported, and free to make decisions guided by compassion and fairness. To untie someone's hands does not mean license for cruelty, but confidence that they can act decisively and justly under pressure. True freedom in leadership is paired with responsibility, never separated from it. This is not a liberation in violence, but a liberation from fear. It is the freedom to serve without cynicism, the freedom to care for comrades, and the freedom to know that our mission is rooted in peace. Our calling is not to kill people and break things, but to protect lives, heal divisions, and safeguard the possibility of peace for generations to come. For we are not an army of one, nor a machine of destruction. We are a body of human beings, millions strong, who chose to give of ourselves for something greater. That greater purpose is not war itself, but the possibility that others may live in safety and harmony because of our service. We serve not because we hate what is before us, but because we love what is behind us, the people we protect, our families, our neighbors, our fellow citizens, and the reason we put on the uniform. The world may not always understand our choices, but our purpose is not to be understood or glorified. Our purpose is to preserve life and to serve with dignity. The strength of this institution does not lie solely in its weapons or numbers. It lies in unity, compassion, and the willingness of ordinary people to give of themselves for the sake of others. That is the true source of peace. Our calling is to be ready, but also to hope that our readiness is never put to the test in battle. Let us remember that the comfort of our people, the freedom of our daily lives, and the safety of their children depend not on the spread of violence, but on the cultivation of harmony. It is our duty to create the conditions where war is less likely, where conflicts are resolved through dialogue, and where those who come after us inherit a world safer than the one that we were given. In closing, I share a simple prayer for all leaders and all who serve. May you be wise in your decisions, compassionate in your leadership, and steadfast in your integrity. May you protect those who are entrusted to your care, and may you minimize harm wherever possible. As you give of yourselves to others, may you also find peace within. Go forward with humility and courage. Serve not the cause of war, but the higher cause of peace. May your strength be the strength that protects, and your leadership the kind that heals. May you carry out your duties in the service of life, and may peace be your legacy. Thank you.